Hello and welcome. Sovereign Earth. It's already number 37. Where does the time go? So, Sovereign Earth. And this evening, I've adapted and changed in response and in flow to where we are and where I am in relationship with what's going on. So Sovereign Earth over the previous month has been a particular subject, virtue or humility or kindness or blessings or compassion. Tonight I'm going to tell you a story. I can see some of you joining me. That's lovely to know I'm not on my own. Sandy Coombs, Melanie, Liz, Ava, Mark, Richard Zita, I never know how to pronounce your name, Angelica, Margarita, Rachel, Ali, Isa Linda and Elizabeth. Yeah, probably more there. Yeah, that's great. Lovely. Beautiful. So, and you're all joining and I welcome you all. So let's just have a song to welcome you as you are keying in. And some of you will have heard this before, but with the fire blazing behind me and the warmth in this room, I want to share the warmth of that and the warmth of heart that we're all sharing as we all log in now. Let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll all make room for you. Let your heart feel no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. Let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll all make room for you. Let your heart feel no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. Just friends that you never knew. Just friends that you never knew. Hey! Welcome. So that's especially for anybody who's new this evening. Many of you are familiar and have been before. And I love the idea that's evolved and is evolving, especially in these times, of this global grove, as I've come to call it and as we've come to know it. A global grove assembling around the world, from all over the world. And we're forming this, at one level it's a virtual circle, you might call it a virtuous circle. And it's like a grove of trees. It's a sacred space we create together to explore the things that really matter, to honour Sovereign Earth, to honour sacred Mother Earth, so long neglected. So isn't this a strange time? And it is a time on the one hand of separation, isolation, hunkering down. Strange not to see my grandchildren. I wrote a haiku, a high flu, as they've come to be called. Live Talk has organised a whole series of episodes of this. It's beautiful. Everyone contributes their haiku, their high flu. So mine went like this. It went, Grandad without kids, a walking oxymoron. Toddlers don't get it. So if you don't know what the word oxymoron means, it's a contradiction, a walking contradiction, a granddad without kids. And kids, toddlers don't get it. They just don't get it. But they don't get it, do they? Right. So there's that separation and loss, but there's also this amazing opportunity for coming into a quieter space, I know I was walking up the valley earlier today, and with the full moon, as it will be tonight, the moon was rising, and the valley was so still. I'd never heard it so still. Loads of birds, but this quietude, this stillness, the silence, the peace, no cars. For long periods of time there was just me, nobody else either, nobody. Felt like nobody for miles. I'm sure there were a few others around in the woods or over the valley. Like it must have been way, way back. So here's another song just to honour. This is another familiar one to many of you. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. Please join in, that's what makes it inclusive and a global grove. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. Once more. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. And interestingly, in this time of being reduced at one level and enclosed. Whoops, there goes my drum. Excuse me. You heard that? We're being pulled in at one level. But what really strikes me is how more accessible, how more aware I was in the stillness, in the silence of the land, and more able to contact it. And that's one opportunity in all this. A sort of enforced retreat at one level, but actually at another level, it's the real gift. Now I want to quote you one of my favourite poems, or my favourite poets, Hafiz, from the 13th century. So this was written several hundred years ago, but it still rings true for me. And here it is. He said, "Don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Let it cut more deep. Let it ferment and season you as few human or indeed divine ingredients can." So just once more, don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Let it cut more deep. Let it ferment and season you as few human or divine ingredients can. So what's he getting at there? Well, let's not wish this away before the lessons that are offered us have been taken advantage of or been. Let's season and ferment in this place, in this time. And let the lesson of this period be instilled and ingrained and embodied in an experiential, here we are, we're on this journey together. I mean, I was thinking, at one level it feels like, it felt like when this kicked off, it felt like I'd woken up on a ship and sailing at sea, and we're all on it. We kind of all woke up on a ship that had cast off from harbour, cast off from the known safe port. And as if we'd either had this sort of over-indulgent party and then sort of fallen asleep on the ship and then woken up, or been drugged and press-ganged, put on the boat, off to sea. Yeah, all at sea. We're all at sea. We're floating. We're sailing where we don't yet know. And the point is, rather than to hanker after what was, is to embrace what is. Now, I spoke about that last week. But tonight, I particularly want to share a story from 23 years ago that I experienced, and that it made a significant mark on me, but it has, I believe, a significant relevance to where we are, what's unfolding, and some clues as to what might be available in terms of the gifts. As some of you may have seen a trailer for this, several months ago on the Scilly Isles, Fleur asked if I'd tell this story, and I started telling it, and then the battery went on her phone halfway through. Some of you may have seen that trailer. It's on the Enchanting the Void website, but here is the rest of the story, and maybe just a bit to introduce it. So 23 years ago, I was obviously a fair bit younger then, but there came a time in my life where everything got turned upside down, a bit like this time, where we've all had everything turned upside down. All that I knew suddenly seemed to be evaporating. It was like I had a chalice that was overflowing, and I, in some way, turned it upside down. And I think, looking back, I can see that my soul was calling for me to do that. The rest of me was resisting wildly and crying no. But my soul, and I think the soul, will guide us, and is, even in these dark times, even in these trying times, even in these turning times, the soul is present and guiding. And to stay aligned to the thread of the soul at a personal level and at a group and global level is it's available, and it's a means of helping us through. Like Ariadne's thread in the labyrinth, we can key into it. Anyway, in that time where that's where everything sort of became, dark and uncertain for me, I took myself off to a yew tree in Wales. Now the background to that was, and those of you who studied the OBOD course, Order of Bards, Ovates and Druid, you'll know there's a bardic course where, as I would say, we flower unto ourselves through the creative arts. And then there follows an ovate period of study, which can last anything from 1 to 50 years. But the ovate is about delving and diving deeper. It's about ancestors, trees, and the more hidden things within us and around us, and seership and divinatory tools. Anyway, in that ovate time of study for me, in the mid-1990s, I went around Britain, the whole of Britain, on a pilgrimage. I took several trips to 7 yew trees, 1 in Scotland, 3 in Wales, and 3 in England. All of them amazing trees, ancient yew trees. The yew is a fantastically long-lived tree. Anyway, I went back to a tree, one of those trees that I had been to on those pilgrimages, called to me. It was a place of safe haven at one level, and I took myself off to it. And the story of how I first found it is on the other snippet of film that's up there. But for now, I'll stick with going to it. I took myself back there. So this place, this tree, was hollow. And parts of it had rotted away. There were a few holes in the outer trunk. You could see light from, you could get inside it. You could crawl into the tree, and in the tree was another tree, a younger tree, where the aerial root had come down from in the mother tree, rooted and grown, and the other tree was falling away. And that's why yew trees, part of the reason they can be viewed as eternal and the tree of eternity, the everlasting tree, because they, in a way, they don't die. They live for a long time but rot away, and the young tree comes down and on it goes. So in this time, I took myself into the tree. All I had with me was a meditation stool. I've just realised it's the one I'm sitting on now. And a Druid cloak. That's all I took in there. And I stayed inside there, strange as it now seems, for 3 nights, 3 days, well 3 nights, because it was evening when I went in, 3 nights and 3 days. I stayed in that tree, apart from coming out for the odd wee, although that wasn't very much because I wasn't drinking anything. But I came out probably 3 times, 4 times to a hedge just 20 yards from the tree. Other than that, I was in the tree. So I curled up round the tree and slept. It was quite cold, although it was midsummer, 1997 this was. And I don't know what drove me to it, or rather called me to it, or guided me through it, but it was, and I can see it now, it was a myth. It was my living myth. And I think we're in a living myth together now. And I want to take you through what happens, because I think it has clues as to what's on offer as we go forward now. So I'm in that tree. And what's interesting is I was only in there for 3 days, 3 nights, 72 hours. And it felt like forever. It felt like years and years and years, like eternity. Part of the reason is when you're in a tree and nothing else to do, meditate, sit, listen, be, and not eating. Eating during a day offers such punctuation marks to the day. Drinking a cuppa, having a glass of water, they all punctuate the day. And now I can have this, look. Because I'm thirsty, I take this. I didn't have that in the yew tree. So the days lasted incredible long time. And it was like going into the story of fairy, where people are abducted or find themselves in fairyland, and they stay there for 2 or 3 days, and they come back and everybody in the normal world has aged beyond recognition. And that's how it felt. Those 3 days have a significance in my life, way out of proportion to the time. And I think this time we're in a similar way, will have an impact on all of us. And during that time, so it's an ordeal at one level. It's a long, my gosh, where am I going? You know, how long will this last? Will I come through it? Certainly the last night and the following day. I mean, I'm not recommending anybody does this, because when I look back, it was, you could say it's mad or stupid. It's not something I'd recommend, but I'm glad I've done it. And that last night, my body was telling me, I'm not happy with this. I need some water. 3 days in, no water, no food. So there's also a period of isolation, like this is also we're in a period of, to differing degrees, period of isolation. But I want to tell you what happened. So it's a long process with opportunities for something else to emerge. Who knows what? But for me, what emerged was a reconnection with the earth, with the soil. I came back into my grounded, simple being. It grounded me in reality. A lot of stuff seemed to fall away in that time. Came down to basics, breathing. So at the end of the third day, so I'd gone in on the evening, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and eventually 3 cycles, day and night, night and day. It came to the point where I could leave. And I hadn't spoken in that time. It was only 3 days, but I found my way out and down this little hillock onto a path that led down a track to the road. And I walked along, and somebody was coming up the road, and I went to speak and say hello, and my voice had gone. I couldn't speak. That was probably because I hadn't drunk any water, but I knew that further down the lane there was a spring, and I went down to the spring, and I took a handful of water, and I kid you not, that water was and is as magical a substance as you can imagine. It changed my whole relationship to water. Water is the most precious and beautiful substance, and tasting the first drop of water after all that time, life-saving but life-affirming, it was just incredible. The world opened up and water took on a completely different meaning. And I think in this time, the things that matter, the things that we are losing on the one hand, take on an incredible value and significance. Not being able to hug people, suddenly we realise how amazing that and what a precious gift. Not being able to go and gather in the town square or in the local pub or the restaurant or cafe. We take these things that may have been taken for granted by all of us, just like water, are actually really precious gifts, all of them. And the things that really matter are the simple things, the most basic. Isn't it interesting in this time? It's the lowly, those workers that have been undervalued are seen as the bottom of the pile. The frontline workers, the refuse collectors, the porters, the nurses, the doctors, the shop workers, and more. I'm sure you know what I mean. Isn't it funny? These are the ones that suddenly we depend on. Dear Boris, bless him, finding out firsthand what it means to be really ill in this time, and I really feel for him, and I also feel for the frontline staff, stretched. So, and then what's significant, I would like to offer the possibility is that there are great gifts available. The water that I tasted at the end of it, this water here, magical. And something is going on. We're all in an initiation. We're all in a mythical process, I'd like to suggest. What's happening is mythical. If we come to be able to tell our grandchildren or our kids' in years to come of this time, there is a mythical quality to it. Who could have envisaged this a year ago? Nobody would have believed you. Nobody would have believed us. Born from water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing, I am. Join in, please, if you care to. Born from water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing, I am. Born from water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing, I am. Born from water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing, I am. So I'd like to just invite us to, those of you who are familiar with the format, I tend to, if I can, incorporate a short guided visualization. I'm going to invite us all to close our eyes. Me too. And through deepening the breath, deep breath, deep breath. Each breath as a love letter to ourselves, or a love note. And then in our mind's eye, taking ourselves to a wood, a beautiful wood. It can be this time of year, wherever you are. Here it's spring, everything just bursting into leaf and blossom. This amazing wood surrounding. And you walk forward and through to an opening, a clearing, a large circle, big enough to host all of us, and a whole load of trees around us, a circle of trees surrounding us, holding that space. And we're all in a circle, we all gather, all of us now. Dozens, hundreds, however many. We're all present right now. And in the moment, and didn't script or think this through, we hold hands in that large circle. And in the centre of the circle, we see an ancient tree, a yew tree. There's an ancient, gnarled, hollowed out, but with a gap in the side where if you choose to you can crawl in, but not yet. You just look at it for now. We're holding hands in this circle. Let us offer 3 Arwens to that yew tree, just as I offered 3 Arwens when I very first went to that tree. So all in this circle together. Deep breath, 3 Arwens. Just squeezing hands either side and letting go. I invite each of us to walk towards that ancient, old, gnarled yew tree in the middle. and to find our way inside that tree through a gap, a small door, a hole that lets us into the tree. And inside there's just enough light as your eyes adjust to make out there's another tree growing in the middle up through the hollow trunk of the yew tree. And I invite us to lie down in that tree with the old mother tree around us and the young but still quite ancient trunk of the tree in the middle. And we're safe in here. And just in a short period of silence I'll allow in a moment, I'll put the question, or you can offer the question into the pool of unknowing. And it's okay if nothing comes back or if there isn't anything offered, but the question to the tree is in this opportunity time as you lie inside the tree. What might the ancient wisdom of the tree offer, suggest, or encourage you to bring into awareness in this time, this turning time that we find ourselves in? What might the tree, in its wisdom, invite, encourage, or offer you? A minute's silence. So I invite us to, in our mind's eye, to gently get up from that space in the tree, to just give gratitude in whichever way is appropriate for you in this moment, giving gratitude to the tree, making your exit through the way you came in, and gently walking to the edge of the circle, as everyone else does, and it will join in this large circle, the global grove, and trees around us, the power and beauty and healing of trees. And we just turn inward and give a little bow or a curtsy or a smile, and gently and gracefully we take our leave of that sacred space, and we return to wherever we're sitting or kneeling or standing in the world right now. And we can open our eyes in that, and coming out of that, it took me back to the time I was in that tree. I didn't know that's what would happen. So I want to just acknowledge that, as I've hinted, that there are gifts and there is a way through this which we don't know, but to trust the process. Trust the process, using all the building blocks of kindness, compassion, virtue, all the building blocks of the 36 other episodes of Sovereign Earth, which for me are the means and the wherewithal for coming back into union and putting Sovereign Earth back at the heart of all we do in this world. And the global grove, in my wildest dreams I just see a global grove of however many, all of us linking and singing and honouring the earth in beauty and in majesty and in truth. So there's a quote I just want to remind myself of. Be bold enough to be small enough to let the world be awesome, and it will. Be bold enough to be small enough to let the world be awesome, and it will. And that's where we are. I'd say that's where we are. So, just to draw it together, let's finish with a song. I've probably gone on a bit longer than usual, but I hope you'll forgive me for that in this unusual time we share. I am a walking tree, you are a walking tree. I am a walking tree, you are a walking tree. I breathe in what you breathe out, you breathe in what I breathe out. I breathe in what you breathe out, you breathe in what I breathe out. Bringing the light down into the darkest ground. Bringing the light down into the darkest ground. Feet on the earth, head in the sky. Feet on the earth, head in the sky. Releasing the life force into the world. Releasing the life force into the world. I am a walking tree. You are a walking tree. Thank you all for sharing this journey. So this is Sovereign Earth, where we look at, I do more talking with some songs. On Friday, it's Global Grove Earth Service. And it's a service for the earth, and it's also in service to the earth, mostly singing, chants with the odd prayer or poem, odd bit of reflection and silence. I hope some of you will join me then as well. 8 o'clock on Friday for that, and Sovereign Earth again next Tuesday. And lots of love. Hope you're in a good place. Safe, strong, humble, small enough, bold enough to be small enough to let the world be awesome. Let's try and hold that one. I'll just turn off. Bye.